Hey everybody, my name's Jeff and I live in Angeles City, and I normally do vlogs on my house build that I've been building for about the last 9 months. But today I thought I'd address another topic, some common mistakes when building here in the Philippines. So as you can see behind me, the house is not done yet. So why am I doing the video now? Well, I wanted to catch all of these thoughts while they were still stuck in my head and before I forgot about them. So maybe I'll do a part 2 when the house is all done. So those viewers who have some building experience have a little bit easier time adjusting and making corrections if they plan on building a house here. But if you don't have any building experience, you shouldn't be afraid to jump in and get involved. Just need to educate yourself a little bit of the building process here in the Philippines and some cultural aspects that come into play when building a house here, and stay involved. So stay tuned and we will talk a little bit more about that. Hey, so before we get started, yes, the scenery has changed. I was having some technical difficulties, as usually the case. I'm really going to have to fire my production crew. They're not doing a very good job. So I think we got the technical things taken care of. So we are located here at my secondary office at the subdivision pool. It's always quiet over here, except today it seems like there's a backhoe going on across the street. So hopefully that doesn't interfere too much. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, disclaimer, I do not have a construction background. People who've been watching my vlogs know that. I've mentioned it several times. I don't claim to be an expert on the matter. I've watched a buttload of YouTube videos over the last 5 or 6 years on home builds in the Philippines. I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research. So what I'm about to cover is just my opinion on this topic. There's some of you that may not agree with it, and that's fine. Put your comments in there. But also to let folks know that there's probably a lot of people that are either building currently or planning on building in the Philippines. So if you do have a background or you have something constructive to add, please put it in the comments, because not only have those comments been helpful for me, but I think they'll be helpful for those who are planning on building and see something that they maybe not thought of before. So if you are building a house in the Philippines, you're planning to, or you currently are, there's 2 documents that you and your contractor should be familiar with, your contractor especially: the National Structural Code of the Philippines and the American Concrete Institute. So the American Concrete Institute is a document that is recognized around the world and is utilized around the world. So that's actually stipulated in my architectural plans that the build will be done in accordance with the American Concrete Institute. So you don't have to study them, but I would just be knowledgeable that they do exist, and your contractor should be very knowledgeable of both of those. So I'll jump right in and I'll touch on the structure parts of the build. And the first thing is the stirrups. So stirrups is a piece of rebar. It's looped, and those pieces of rebar go around other rebar for your beams and your columns. So I think I have some footage of that, and I'll put it in there. But most builds here, they bend those ends to a 90-degree angle. And one of my viewers pointed out that they really should be bent to a 135-degree angle, which provides some additional strength to the columns and beams. And I did some research, and that's absolutely the case. And it's mentioned in the American Concrete Institute as well. So when I first learned of this, I ran through my subdivision. They weren't doing mine initially. This was early on in the build. And the other 5 or 6 builds ongoing in the site, on the subdivision, they weren't building them at 135. They weren't bending them at 135 either. So I think it's not common to have them bent to 135, but I would definitely recommend that if you are building, to have them bent to a 135 vice to 90 degree, because I don't think they'll do it without you bringing it up. Compactor, when compacting the dirt has to be compacted before you pour concrete on it, and you should be using a mechanical or a gas operated compactor and not a manual rigged up human compactor. You just run into some problems. You're not going to compact the earth as good as you can with a mechanical compactor. Spacers for the rebar. I think I have a video or a picture of that. I'll show those, but you need to make sure that the rebar is not exposed when the concrete is poured. That's, I guess, when it comes to pouring concrete and concrete work, that's a big no-no. So use some spacers that are made out of concrete, and you should make sure that your builder is not taking shortcuts and he's using these spacers. So concrete hollow block is what majority of the houses are built with. Mine was built with 4-inch concrete hollow blocks. There's 5 and 6. I think they might go up 7, 8. It depends on the size of your house. And what I'll say about concrete hollow blocks, because there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of comments about concrete hollow block early on in my build. So at least in my build, the concrete hollow blocks, the walls are not load bearing. The load is bared by the columns and the beams in my house. You could remove all of the concrete hollow blocks from the house and it would still stand. It's designed to, the weight is designed to be on the beams and the columns. So don't get too wrapped up on, you know, what they look like and they crumble easily here, and because when they're putting them up, they don't look very nice. They're pretty ugly. It looks like sloppy work, but they will plaster that and then skim coat it, and it'll look like a regular gypsum board wall that you may be used to seeing back in the West. Your second floor slab, if you do have a multi-story building, your second floor slab, I did my slab, it's called a monolithic slab, and I would recommend that if you can do a monolithic slab pour, that's what you do. That means it's one continuous pour, and it's supposed to be much stronger than doing the pour in stages. So if you watch any YouTube videos on them pouring the second floor slab, they're typically doing it manually with buckets, and they'll do it in stages, and they may even do it over a multiple day period. And the real concrete experts out there will tell you that that's not going to be as strong as a single pour, a monolithic pour. So something to think about for your second floor slab. The other thing is you got to use a concrete vibrator, a machine, not the concrete vibrator of a stick that they're poking in. That's probably okay for maybe some smaller form pours, but when you're doing a major pour there, you want to make sure that you're using a mechanical concrete vibrator. Two major ways or two common ways of pouring a second floor slab is either using forms or steel decking. I did a video on this too. I use steel decking, and the benefit for steel decking is it's much faster, it's much easier. If you're using the wood forms when the concrete's cured, then you have to go and tear all of the forms off of there. With the steel decking, it just stays in place, so it's much faster. And the other benefit is you don't have to use as much concrete with the steel decking, because the steel decking adds some strength to the slab itself. So something to think about in regards to steel decking or a form pour. These are what are called test cylinders, and here, I don't know if it happens all throughout the Philippines, but for this build and my builder, they randomly select some concrete out of one of the 3 trucks, and they place them in these, it's called test cylinders, and then they're taken to an independent facility. After, I guess, 24 hours, they're demolded, and then they're put in water until they're at the right test stage, and then they they subject them to a comprehensive testing machine to record the failure. It was a comprehensive strength test. But that's what they're doing there, is they randomly selected some concrete to use. Then my roof, the last couple videos, the most recent videos I did, we covered the roof. So the roof is just about finished on the house. And the most common type of roof here in the Philippines is a metal roof. And I think the standard for a metal roof is 0.4. I went with a 0.5. You got to make sure that your builder isn't putting anything less than a 0.4. If they even have that material, I don't know. But a 0.4 is the minimum. But if you can afford to go higher than that, then I would recommend going higher than that. The insulation that's used here is not what you are commonly used to seeing back in the West. The fiberglass insulation. They use a aluminum foil foam thermal insulation, and it's designed to insulate against radiant heat. So I was reading an article on this, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it said in environments such as the Philippines, 75% of the heat that is in the house comes from the roof. So really, you don't want to shortchange what you're doing insulating the roof. The minimum requirement for insulation in roofs here is 5 mm, and I went with 10 mm double-sided foil. And I would recommend that the cost really wasn't that much more. I want to say it was maybe 10,000 pesos more for the 10 mm vice the 5 mm, and you get double the thickness. So I wouldn't shortchange it on the insulation because it does get extremely hot here. Plumbing, I use PPR as far as the water lines. The drain lines are just a PVC. But the PPR is what is commonly used here. I think it's a tried and trusted plumbing method. So if your plumber is doing something other than that, you probably want to do a little bit of a research and make sure that it's okay. But the PPR has a thicker wall. It's good for hot water. It can stand, I don't know what the pressure is on it, what it can stand, but they use a machine and they melt the ends, and then they push the ends together. So if your builder, your plumber is fusing those ends in another way, it's probably not the recommended way of putting it together. You don't use a blowtorch and be torching the ends there and squeezing them together. They have a special machine for it. You want to make sure that they actually do a pressure test of the water lines before everything is closed up. I think commonly they just run some pressurized water in there, maybe 40 or 50 psi's. The water, that's what they did with mine, and I think the current water pressure there is about 50 psi. But I think we are going to actually hook some air up to it as well, and air and water, and just bump that up a little bit higher to make sure that it can withstand pressures higher than 50 psi's. What the max pressure is for the PPR, I don't know. There may be a plumber on there that can chime in on that. You want to use a waterproofing agent or material on your comfort room floors, the ones that have showers on it. Keep asking about what kind of material was used on mine. It is Bostik Power Mix. I don't really know if that's a good one or a bad one, but I know it's on now, so probably not going to be changing anything at this point in time. But you want to make sure that they're waterproofing it, and if they're not waterproofing it, you got to waterproof it. You'll run into some problems later on down the road. I think a lot of people believe that when you have tile on there, the tile is waterproof. The tile really isn't waterproof. Over time, if there's water that's sitting on that tile, it's going to eventually seep through there and cause some problems for you. You want to make sure that everything in the bathroom is vented, the sinks, the toilets, or the water closets, and the showers, and the drains in there. If you don't have that stuff properly vented, the water's not going to go down the sink, at least not very good, and you'll have problems flushing your toilet. So you want to make sure that they don't take any shortcuts and they actually vent all of that stuff. Most houses here in the Philippines use water tanks. I opted to go with a water bladder. Tanks, I don't really know what the real deal is in the subdivision. I have not seen any water tanks. I know several of the houses have cisterns. I have a cistern. But you need to be able to pressurize that water. So the current water pressure in the subdivision is very good. And initially I will probably just use the current water pressure until they build more houses here and may impact the pressure. But I'm getting a water bladder, which is a membrane inside of a water tank. And there's different schools of thought on, is that better than in a tank and blah, blah, blah. And I can tell you that you get more constant pressure with the bladder. The downside is you may have problems with the bladder later on down the road. But I talked to several people that have water bladders, and they've had them for between 6 and 10 years, and they haven't had any problems with them. And I think one of the things you need to be mindful of if you are using a water bladder is your water that you're putting in there. I had my water tested here, and the water in the subdivision really isn't all that bad, but I'm putting a filtration system on my water. So the water will undergo a filtration process before it goes into the water bladder, which I hope will prolong the life of the bladder itself. And then the exhaust fans in the bathroom, or the exhaust fan, the range hood, the kitchen range hood, I've heard stories of contractors just venting them up into the chase or to the ceiling between the true slab and the false ceiling there, which you're just asking for problems if you allow that to happen. You know, a lot of the air in bathrooms, it's very moist from the showers and stuff, and you're going to be putting that moist air up into the ceiling chase, cause all kinds of problems for you. So make sure that they are not lazy and they vent those items to the outside. And with your kitchen range fan, I know some of those fans are designed to recirculate it back into the house. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. But I would recommend having a range fan that vents it to the outside. Just better all the way around. The electrical system. So here in the Philippines, most houses use, and most appliances use 220 volts, unlike in the United States where we use 110. So my house is going to have a combination of 110 and 220 volts. And and I'm going to have a grounded system. Grounded systems in the Philippines are not common. So if you are looking to have a grounded system, don't tell your contractor, I'm looking for a 3-prong system. A 3-prong is the outlets. Because just because you have 3-prong outlets does not mean that they're going to ground your system. If you got a 3-prong system, you have 3 wires, and one of those is a ground wire, and that ground wire should lead to a earth ground, which is a grounding rod pounded into the ground, and that's how the house is grounded that way. If they're not doing it that way, if they're telling you, yeah, we gave you a 3-prong system, and they're not using an earth ground, then it's not grounded, and you're paying for something that you didn't get. So be mindful of that terminology, that you want a 3-prong system. If you want a grounded system, then tell them you want a grounded system and that you want it grounded to the earth. But again, that's not common here. Most houses don't have ground. Most houses don't have ground fault interrupters, the GFIs that you see back in the West, in the bathrooms and in the kitchens. Well, I'm talking about electric. I just touch on solar power. I wasn't totally sold on the idea of solar power back in the US, but when I got here and started reading and started experiencing the high electric bills, it was a no-brainer for me. So I would say my average electric bill is probably between 8,000 and 10,000 pesos a month, but I really try to conserve things, and I don't run the ACs very long, usually at night. But your return on investment here is probably going to be less than 5 years. So doing the calculation for me, it's probably going to be about 3 to 4 years to get my return on investment. For my size house, my house is about 330 square meters, about, I don't know, over 3,000 square feet. So I'm getting a 12 kilowatt system, and a 12 kilowatt system here in the Philippines will run you between 325 to 400,000 pesos. So if you're spending 10,000 pesos a month on electric, over a year's period of time, that's $120,000 over a 3 years period. You're going to pay for your solar system. And the warranties on the solar panels now, for the ones I got, I think are a 10-year warranty. And I don't remember what the inverter was. I want to say it was a 5-year warranty for that. But I think you got to go with solar. I mean, unless you just absolutely squeeze in pennies and you don't have the money to do it. Solar power is the way to go here in the Philippines. And the sequence of build. So if for everybody who's been following my build is not a good example of the sequence of build. And that's going to be based off of your contractor, and it's going to be based off of things sometimes out of your control or out of his control, whether it's logistical issues or getting appropriate clearances for the people, or they're not for these different trades, a whole variety of reasons. But my house is not an example of the logical order in which a house should be built. Based off of my research and just common sense, once you have the walls up in the house, the next thing you should do is put your roof on. And that'll prevent a lot of other issues from happening later on down the road. So the roof, then you install the plumbing and the electric, the tiles, finish the walls, the windows, put the windows in. That should sort of be the sequence, it's the logical sequence of how a house build is done here in the Philippines. Again, if your contractor chooses to do his own thing, and he's going to do his own thing for a lot of different reasons, maybe the roofing people he uses aren't available. Do you want to stop work and wait for the roofers to become available, or you want to move on? And that's pretty much what we did here. For a variety of reasons, we didn't get the roof on early, so we chose to just keep pushing forward and doing some of the other things, which is not the best way of doing business. But that's the sequence of build. Termite. A big problem with termites here in the Philippines, tropical climate. Anytime you're in a tropical climate, you're probably going to experience problems with termites. So you need to treat your soil, treat the plot of land that you have before you start building on it. And then I installed an anti-termite system, a piping. I think it's called a reticulation system. And what it is just conduit pipes ran on the outside perimeter of your house, built into the house itself. And that PVC has holes in it, so they can pump some termicide or anti-termite chemical in there that'll seep into the ground and to the foundation of your house. So here I used a brand called Soil Guard, and the chemical in it, the primary chemical, cypermethrin, I think it's called cypermethrin is the primary chemical in it. And I did a little research on that too. That's a chemical that is used pretty common in the United States for some of the same things. So I felt pretty safe with that, and that's probably what I'll use going forward, probably annually, have somebody come in and spray that through that anti-termite system that I have in there. So I would recommend doing that. You don't want to experience termite damage. Understanding once they get in the house, you're going to run into some problems, even if it's a concrete house. If you have wooden doors or wooden door frames, or all of your cabinets, unless you're using PVC, you got wood in the cabinets, you got wood furniture, you're just asking for problems. So that's the dealio on anti-termite control. Furniture. If you are getting custom furniture made, you want to make sure that they're treating that for termites as well. But you want to know the turnaround time on that furniture. So we're having some custom-made furniture made. We're having custom furniture made here as well. And the turnaround time on that is 45 to 90 days. So you got to really time it sort of just right, because a lot of these places can't store it for you for a long period of time. So you're just going to have to time that at the right time. So 45 to 90 days. Cabinets, kitchen cabinets, walk-in closet cabinets, bars, all of the above, what we have. You can get just about anything that you can get in the West, I guess. The product here, PVC, I really wanted to go with the PVC cabinets here, but that's about 20% more. So I went with a laminate cabinet that we're using marine plywood, which is a water resistant. It's treated to be water resistant, not waterproof, but water resistant. So if you get a little water on it, it should hold up pretty good. And some of it also has some anti-termite protection to it as well. But I also watched some YouTubers that are just using wood, and they've put all kinds of chemicals. One video, I think they put Bondo or something on the cabinets to smooth it out. I mean, it looks pretty good. I don't know how well it holds up. And that's one of those things, if you're, my opinion, if you're not really familiar with it, you probably don't want to experiment with it. With it on your house. So again, we're going with laminate cabinets throughout the house. Some miscellaneous items. When you're getting your windows, or you're ordering your windows, you want to get them tinted. Wouldn't recommend putting tint on afterwards. I'm not a tint expert, but based off of research that I've done, that after-market tint that they put on there isn't very good, and I understand there's a tendency to get scratched up. So I would recommend tinting your windows from the get-go. And we are using the zebra blinds, which seems like it's the hot thing nowadays. And the zebra blinds can be installed where it goes beyond the end of the window frame, or you can install it so it fits right inside of the window frame. And I think that's a better look. If you're planning on putting it inside a window frame, then you want to make sure that you have that conversation with your window vendor to ensure there's enough room to put the zebra blinds inside of the window frame. Garage doors. I'm putting a garage door on my house. You don't see a lot of garage doors here. I think if you do, they're probably an American house, because us Americans just like our garage doors. But if you're planning on doing a garage door, you want to get that addressed from the very beginning. So in hindsight, I should have picked a garage door before my architect finished the drawings and before we started the construction, because now the opening for the garage door is it's set, and the two different sizes of garage doors that are available won't fit in there. So it has to sort of be retrofitted. So my builder is going to have to extend the beam and the column in there to accommodate for the garage door. I think it's about 6 inches. But it is what it is. In hindsight, I should have just planned for that in the beginning, and we wouldn't have been wasting any time or material doing it now. So in conclusion, even though builds are much cheaper here than they are in the West, you're still probably paying pretty good money for it. So you want to make sure you're getting what you paid for, and you want to make sure you're doing what you can to prevent major shortcuts from happening. And you got to ask yourself from the very beginning, you may have to reassess yourself throughout your build, is what is acceptable and what is not acceptable to you. You can't be so rigid that it's got to be perfect. I guess you can if you want, but being super rigid, unless you're a builder yourself, somebody like myself, you got to pick your battles, man. Know when to dig your heels in, and know when it's something that probably isn't worth the effort that you're putting into, because you may just be spinning your wheels unnecessarily. Constant communication with your builder and the foreman. We have a lot of communication problems here, though most Filipinos speak English or have a pretty good understanding of it, or a decent understanding of it. It just seems like communication on the job site doesn't get down to the worker bees all the time when things are discussed. So you want to make sure that you're involved and you're having those conversations, and your builder and your foreman are having the conversations they need to have with the worker bees to make sure things are being done correctly. And again, I just want to close to remind everybody, I am not a builder. I don't claim to be an expert on this. what I provided was just my own opinion. I know there's a lot more other things in there we could talk about, but I think that these are pretty simple things that the novice, somebody who doesn't have a background in building like myself, you can easily make sure is getting done. And I think the dividends are well worth the effort that you put into it. If you like this type of material and you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down here and you'll be notified when I post a new vlog. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. Just a reminder, a lot of people do watch these that are planning on building, or maybe they're currently building. So if you do have some valuable advice, put it in there, whether it's for me or for somebody who's planning on building. Thanks again for joining. I think I'm going to have a little drink here, and then I'm going to go for a swim. So I hope to see you all next time. Take care.